Good morning, everybody. You're watching another episode of The Dialogue, Season 1, Episode number 5. And what we've been talking about in this first season is really decoding the Indian scriptures and understanding them. We started off with the Bhagavad Geeta, and it has been an extremely intriguing conversation. It's episode number 5, and we're still at the Bhagavad Gita, and I think we can go on with it for the rest of the season. We'll probably bring on the Ramayana and other rituals like, touching feet of elders, doing the Aarti, doing puja in the following episodes, or even perhaps another season. So this is a very, very important conversation. I have just driven back. I drove back 5 hours this morning from Boston, 4 hours this morning from Boston, and through my journey, I was listening to podcasts, and I was listening to Esther Perel, who is one of my favorite relationship experts, and it brought me back to the Bhagavad Gita and reminded me of how we have all the answers. It's such an important question, and we have all the answers of how to live life here in one manual of life. We just need to know how to decode it and understand it, and that's exactly what we're doing with Guruji here in this particular season of the dialogue, the first season of the dialogue. Shaina, these are actually uploaded to my YouTube channel. I will do a better job of promoting my YouTube channel, but they are uploaded because a lot of people have asked that they want their parents and other loved ones to be able to hear this. So we've already started doing that work. If you can't find my YouTube channel, DM me. I will also make sure to put it in my stories regularly. Waiting for Guruji to join. Namaste Rajni. We have taken on a lot of different topics and little stories from the Mahabharata, as well as we've understood the basic nature of what we're looking at. So the little stories are telling of situations that we face in life, whether it's the chakra view that we discussed last time, that kind of reminds us that how we get entangled in, we can get into things, the mind, we can get entangled into the mind, but if we can't disentangle ourselves, it's like a chakra view that you can get lost but you can't come out. And Abhimanyu heard his father Arjun in the womb with all of this knowledge of how to do it, how to get in, but he fell asleep. The mother fell asleep when it was time for how to get out of the chakra view. And to me it reminded me of that, how sometimes we're just gathering information of execution. But the more we do that and the more we just study about execution, we kind of get trapped in the world and the samsara. So to find our way back as well. But the main theme of the Bhagavad Gita is how we go from the playground to the battleground. We are born into a playground and we find ourselves inevitably as adults on a battleground. And then we start asking those bigger questions of life that Arjun asked Krishna. And let me see if Guruji is here. Because I was running about 10 minutes late. As I said, I had a long drive this morning, but I made it on time. As you can see, I'm ready in my dialogue avatar. Guruji is right here. We will get started without further ado because I don't want us to have very little time. Let's try and get the whole hour. If you've not watched the previous episodes, I would say go back, catch the entire series. It's very, very intriguing. And we shall do this right now. I have tried reading Buddha's teaching and I'm very inspired by the Dhammapada myself. Pranam, Guruji.
Pranam, how are you?
I'm great, Guruji. My apologies for the slight delay this morning.
No problem.
How are you doing, Guruji?
Perfect. Everything is going on very well.
Great. So before you came, Guruji, we just quickly summed up that how we've gone to understand the essence of why we are learning the Bhagavad Gita, how we come to the questioning of samsara at some point, after being intrigued by the samsara and being entangled in the samsara, we inevitably, all of us find ourselves in a questioning place. And that's the questioning place that Arjun found himself with Krishna right in the middle of Kurukshetra. And then I also talked about how there are so many little stories, whether we talked about Eklavya, who was resisted by Dronacharya because to give authority to somebody who's not in position can actually be harmful, to Bhishma on his deathbed teaching Dharmaputra how to run a kingdom And a very beautiful insight Guruji gave last time was when a woman can adorn herself in her favorite ornaments and clothes and walk on the street without being afraid of her safety, then you know you've done a good job ruling a kingdom. So progressive. Um, there are little stories that are telling of how we should be living our lives, and then there's a main theme which the Bhagavad Gita carries, which is this main questioning that we find ourselves into, Guruji. So we've done a lot of the stories around Guruji, but can we take a little bit of Dronacharya today at start? And then you also tell us if there are any other characters, any other interesting plot stories that you think we have missed out that we should cover before we get into the actual conversation between Arjun and Krishna.
Anyhow, almost all main characters we already discussed.
Yes.
And Dronacharya, again, he shows the relevance of a master and responsibility of a master. On top of that, how a master can be silent and how destructive will be his silence when he was supposed to talk, and how that mistake is taking the whole situation to a total destruction. That is what is symbolized by Dronacharya. Not only Dronacharya, Bhishmacharya. But Bhishmacharya is having different dimensions. But Dronacharya is presented as a master or a powerful leader. When Draupadi, Panchali was humiliated in front of the public in the court of Dhritarashtra, if Dronacharya could have said that this is wrong, it should be stopped now. If he could have said like that, this Mahabharata war would not have happened. So he was silent. Then what happened? He was forced to be in the side of Kauravas. Because as per the law, the ruler is the decision maker. So when the king is taking a decision, then everybody should follow that. Same way we can see now. Here in our democratic system, this modern system, if a minister is taking a wrong decision, no officer is permitted to violate or deny that decision. That means whether it is illogical or not, it is being enforced on public. But in democratic system, we have different ways to rectify. But that time, power was deciding everything. Like Bhishma, when he wanted to take three ladies, Amba, Ambika, Ambalika, from their father, he used his force. And he brought these three ladies without their permission to Hastinapura. And he was explaining that, yes, I took it, or I did this one for my brother. And nobody was there to question him. But the lady, you might have heard about that story, Amba, Ambika, Ambalika, three sisters. But the elder one, Amba, was in love with the Salu Raja, the king of Salu Deshi. Then she couldn't accept Bhishma's proposal. But Bhishma said, I brought you here on behalf of my brother. But now you are saying that you cannot accept my brother because you are already in love with the Salu Raja. So you go back. No problem. I am relieving you. Then the poor lady went to her lover. When she reached there, Salu said, sorry, I am being defeated by Bhishma and I lost in the war. So that means you belongs to Bhishma. So you have to go back. I cannot accept you. So he denied, bluntly he denied. Then the poor lady went to her father. Father also said that, no, We are being defeated by Bhishma, so you belong to Bhishma. So lady was considered there as a commodity. Who was the reason for that? Bhishma. But he was the mighty warrior. So nobody could question him because of his power. If here in modern world also, if a country is becoming very powerful in terms of their arms and ammunitions, then no other country can deny them. And whatever mistake they do, the whole world will be suffering for that. But nature has a calculation. Nature has a clear data. Whether it is for an own person or for a society or for a country, whatever you do, then every action will be recorded in nature and there will be a reaction accordingly. So Bhishma and Drona, these mighty acharyas or masters, are representing this law of nature. So Bhishma, because of his mistake, he was rude with the ladies in front of Panchali also and Amba. He could have given the proper justice for them, but he didn't do that. That is why he was mercilessly killed in the war field. Same way, Dronacharya did the same mistake. He could have stopped that humiliation against a lady, and he was silent. His silence was unpardonable. That is why he was brutally killed in a very bad manner. But again, they are showing that they knew that was their mistake. Then they were telling the opponents the secret how they could be killed. Dronacharya also indomitable, so nobody could kill him. Then finally, he told the other party, enemies, Pandavas, that so long as I am powerful and so long as weapon is in my hand, nobody can touch me. So make me nervous, then I will give up the weapons. Then only you can kill. So that's people, Pandavas will ask, Master, how we can make you nervous? Then he will declare that if something happened to my son, I will be nervous. So he was revealing that his the cause of nervousness or his limitation. Then they made a plan. Pandavas made a plan. The name of Dronacharya's son, Ashuddhama. So what they did, only one son. They made a sculpture of an elephant and they gave the name Ashuddhama. Then they smashed it by a mace. Then they declared loudly that Ashuddhama Hada. That means Ashuddhama got killed.
Destroyed.
Then slowly Dharmaputra said Kunjara. Kunjara means elephant. So Dronacharya heard in the war field somebody was screaming that, oh, Ashuddhama got killed. Then the rest he didn't hear. Said by Dharmaputra. Dharmaputra is not supposed to tell a lie. If Dharmaputra said something, everybody believes that is true. So Krishna forced Dharmaputra to scream like this, Ashuddhama Hada, then Kunjara slowly. So Dronacharya heard Dharmaputra declared that Ashuddhama got killed and the rest he didn't hear. Then he became nervous. He left his bow and arrow. Then by the time Arjuna killed him. Not Arjuna, Drishtadyumna killed him. So again, these are the combination of dharma and adharma. Our life is a mixture of this dharma and adharma. It is like day and night. We cannot specifically say this is the ultimate truth and this is the ultimate untruth. Nobody can say that. So long as we have this duality, we have to manage this positive and negative thoughts like Pandavas and Buddha. This is the general idea. So the moment you have a power, either be a brother or a sister or a mother or an official, if you have power, you must be aware of the power and use it with a proper calculation. Even sometimes if you are powerful, if your chair is having some kind of power, even your silence can be an ultimate crime. This is what is reminded through Dronacharya.
Okay, many learnings at this level. One of the main learnings that the Mahabharata brings is in a position of authority. When you are in a position of authority, any action or inaction can create a big consequence for yourself,
Yes.
or others. So to
Yes.
really value and understand a position of authority, and I think that Guruji, that's probably true in all areas of life. For example, I'm a mother, which gives me some authority, and as if you run a business, that gives you some authority, and also to speak up when it's right, speak up when it's right and conduct the right action. Even silence can be a crime when you're in a position of authority. So it's the delicate balance between how much action is too much, like Bhishma's action in authority was too much, and Dronacharya's inaction was too little. So, being in a position of authority is not all power, it's great responsibility. And this is a reminder of that, this story. At the same time, Guruji, you said that Dronacharya, in spite of being invincible, still had his weaknesses. And
Yes.
it doesn't matter what strength you carry, when your weakness can become so strong, it has the power to take off all the strength in one moment. And
Yes.
he was aware of his weakness. So even as human beings, right, Guruji, to always ask this question, uh, like somebody asked me this question, said, how do you lose in life? So to remind ourselves of what is it that will make me lose in life, or make you, that we all have those trigger points, those weaknesses, which destroy all our strengths. So to be always mindful of that, because we are a generation obsessed with gathering skills, gathering strengths, but the weaknesses are so strong that sometimes all the strengths just disappear. So many learnings on so many different levels. It's making me more curious, Guruji, that probably now, right, if anybody who's listening to this now goes and reads the Mahabharata, we can actually sit and translate the meanings of all of these stories. While the entire Mahabharata is representation of possibilities in life, the Bhagavad Gita, which is one part of the Mahabharata, brings you back to that question that we're constantly asking.
True.
So are we ready to dive
Yes.
into Bhagavad Gita, or we still have some things to uncover before?
See, again, generally, before we get into Bhagavad Gita, again, now we don't have much to explain about Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, true.
Now, almost all points we discussed. Here, Master is giving specified instructions for an individual. Like it is that key character of Mahabharata is a blind man. That time, when it was written, the power was focused because it was dictatorship. So people could take decision very easily. So if the king is convinced, that is the law. But in democratic system, it is not as easy as dictatorship. It should be discussed. That means the power is spread to the public. Actually, our masters knew that in future, this is what is going to happen. People will own the power. They will possess the power. That is why, if you take one, this Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad, there is a sloka, Asurya Namade Loka, Andhena Tamasavrata, Tamsthe Pratyabhigacchandi, Ege Cha Atmahanojana. What does it mean? This is exactly what is happening in this 2021. How many thousands of years ago this sloka is written? The meaning is, Surya, there is a time going to come where there is no spiritual Surya, light. Surya, there is a time where people will be materially occupied and entangled, where there is no spiritual wisdom. Namade Loka, a society is going to come. Andhena Namasavrada, no spiritual light, means the darkness of spiritual ignorance. Andha means darkness. Tamasavrada, it is being completely into spiritual, material darkness. Kamste pratyabhigacchandi. Everybody is moving on to that destructive era. Atmahanojana. People are killing by themselves. See? Now, each and every modern man is killing themselves. Why? Because there is no spiritual wisdom. Everybody is craving for something which they don't know. Dhritarashtra is the representation of the man of 2021. This is what is I am experiencing. There even Krishna comes and say this, Dhritarashtra, you are in extreme danger. A simple change in your decision can make everything different. But that blind man was not ready to listen Krishna, Vedavyasa, Bhishma, Vidura, all these wonderful personalities advised this blind man not to allow your son, because of your attachment, because of your possessiveness with your sentimental possessiveness with your son, you are violating the law of nature. You are against the law. But he was not ready to listen to this master. What was the end? There was a total destruction and agony. Just think with a free mind. Is it not what we are experiencing in this modern world? What we don't have? We have everything. Surplus. Everybody has money. Everybody in the sense, there are a few guys who are possessing the major part of the wealth, and 40-50% children are really struggling with lack of due to the lack of drinking pure drinking water and proper food. How many are starving and dying? Who cares? Because of this spiritual, the lack of spiritual wisdom, because they see only the material attachment, like the Dhritarashtra, the blind man. If these people who are holding the power become spiritual, the Surya, son of spiritualism, develops in them, then the whole world will be entirely different. So masters are giving this one. When we read with this idea, we will come to know what we have to listen, or whom we should listen, and what we have to. Another thing, if you see an interesting part, the Bhagavad Gita, key of the whole Mahabharata, is divided into 18 chapters. See the technique. Then the war between the Kauravas and Pandavas, 18 days. The Akshaunis, which were participating in the 18 Akshaunis. What does it mean? Rama Ravana, in the Ramayana also, the war between, the battle between Rama and Ravana decided on 18 days. Puranas, basically 18 Puranas are written. It shows that everything is coming back to the reader. We have 18 tattvas, 18 aspects of life. That is the 5 organs and 5 pranas and 5 bhutas, elements, and mind, intellect, and the feeling of I, the spiritual awareness. So when we manage this 18 and control one by one, defeating means mastering it. When we do this one, the 18th day, we will have the Surya, the light, the spiritual light within ourselves. We will transform ourselves into Krishna. Then we will be connected to Krishna consciousness, universal intelligence. This is the totality of Mahabharata.
So Guruji, you're saying the significance of 18 is that because of the 18 tattvas, the pancha, the 5 mahabhutas, the 5
Yes.
jnanendriyas, the 5
Yes.
karmas, right? So the 5 sense organs, 5 action,
Yes.
and
Yes.
the ahankar.
Yes.
All of those come together, and those are really what make from energy to this matter. And as
Yes.
kind of disentangle or meditate on each one of those, the backward journey, going back from all of this, will take us to that Krishna consciousness.
Reality of
Will,
this universe.
will take us back to reality. And today's time, like you said, is we are really stuck in that dilemma of Dhritarashtra.
Yes.
Probably in Satyug, we were stuck in the dilemma of Yudhishthira, who also had his own dilemma.
Yes, of course.
But in our time, we are literally, Mahabharata becomes even more relevant to us today in these times, because really through the lens of Dhritarashtra's experience, we are able to understand our own lives and how to not conduct it or how to conduct it. Also very important that when you are with that much ahankara and that much ego and belief or greed for something that you want and belief that you're right, then you become blind and deaf to all your weaknesses. So on many levels, this whole question comes about. But I'm still going to be back, even though we don't need to have a big discussion on the Bhagavad Gita, Guruji. The Bhagavad Gita is Arjun questioning Krishna that, hey, I'm here on this battlefield having this nervous breakdown, and these are my relatives, how can I fight them? And even if, when we are going through life, Guruji, that's the question that comes about, the question of our dharma, our action. And we're still stuck in this dilemma, Guruji. So let's talk a little bit about that conversation. And what was Arjun experiencing when he asked this question? And how can we relate that to what we experience in our daily life? And then how do we go from there? Of course, all the seasons after this are going to carry answers, Guruji. This is a start of a dialogue. As we go into the seasons and we go into the theory of yoga and kundalini and experiencing that tattvamasi, brahmasmi, we're going to go into all of these aspects. But let's start at this very granular level, the question that we ask ourselves on a regular basis: where am I and what am I supposed to do?
Yes. So Gita is presented as a narration of a person, Sanjaya, the person who could open the third eye, who was explaining this narration or is narrating to a blind man. So blind man is listening. He is not he is not seeing it, only hearing. So what does it mean? Our blindness, our material attachment is only hearing, limited information, no direct experience. So we have to take a decision whether you want to be a witness or you want to be a listener. If you want to be a witness, you should open the third eye. You have to transform yourself into Sanjaya or Vedavyasa or Krishna. There are characters who could open the third eye through which they could experience the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Then from the experienced people, others were able to listen it.
Mm-hmm.
That is what is called Shruti.
Mm-hmm.
Shruti means verbally explained. So here the reader should decide in which position he has to place himself. Dhritarashtra position or Sanjaya's. Then the second dimension is These Kauravas and Pandavas are actually involved in the war or in the whole life. These two cousins from elder sons, elder guys or the king's sons were 100 people, they are Kauravas. Younger one Pandu, his children were 5 people, is Pandava. So these people are fighting each other or they are having their life. But most of the time, these Pandavas were either in forest or they were hiding from the public. So they were being tortured from the beginning till end. They were having crisis. But one speciality is there. Always Krishna was with these Pandavas. See the techniques or the intricacy of all these things. It's a fantastic explanation. Throughout the life, these guys were going through, like extreme situations, but they were all contented. They were enjoying the life. But the Kauravas were always in the palace, but not even 1 second they were content.
In peace, yeah.
See the difference.
Yeah.
So the more the Kauravas are being represented, they are representing the modern man. Now we have everything. We are living on top of all luxuries. But can you see even one person who is really contented? This is the difference. But on the other side, Pandavas, even though they are going through all these problems, they are content. The difference is they are connected to cosmic intelligence, Krishna. Here, what we should do, in the middle of this Maya, this external world is only Maya. The moment you open your third eye, you will come to know this manifested world, this apparent universe is only an illusion. But still, you will be in this illusory world, but you will have a mind like Pandavas. So you will go through all ups and downs, but you are content. That is what is called a complete, successful life. But if you put yourself into this Kauravas dimension, then even though you possess everything, never you be satisfied or content. This is the overall understanding we have to maintain. Second thing, if we come straight to Bhagavad Gita, that sloka you can take. Everybody is reciting Bhagavad Gita. Just for example, the first sloka when you listen, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveda Yuitsu Mamakaha Pandavascheta Kima Kuruvada Sanjay. This is the first sloka. Who is asking? The blind man. That is the only place where we see Dhritarashtra in this whole Bhagavad Gita. 700 slokas are there. But the question is delivered by a blind man. What does it mean? Dharma Kshetra means the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. There are 4 dimensions. And in the cosmic reality, Kurukshetre, feeling of I, me and my ego. Samaveda Yuitsuva. The people, both sides, Kauravas and Pandavas, they were fighting, they were ready to start the war. Mamakaha, my egotistic thoughts, this Kauravas. Pandavas Chaiva, the other party or the cosmic laws. Kima Kuruvada Sanjaya. Then what happened? A guy who already opened your third eye. So the blind man, the materially successful man or attached man is asking to a person who could open the spiritual eye. So if you take a book, translation or interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, immediately it is written like that. Oh, there was a battlefield somewhere in the northern side of India named Kurukshetra. So where the righteousness was established. Dharma Kshetra means law of action. So the battleground where the rules and regulations were clearly obeyed. Then my people and the other party, Kauravas and Pandavas, what had happened or what had happened later, please explain to me. This is how the explanation is going. But If you are a serious reader, if you know the totality of Mahabharata, we have to place ourselves in the place of Dhritarashtra, because we should accept that our material eyes are blocked or open. Material eyes are open and our spiritual eye is blocked. That means we are spiritually blind. With that sense, if we see Dharma Kshetre, Guru Kshetre, there is a cosmic law which cannot be comprehended. Kurukshetra means I create my illusory world. So long as my organs are active, 18 tattvas are active, I am entangled into this illusory world. That is my Kurukshetra. So Dharma Kshetra is an invisible reality. Kurukshetram is a visible, egotistic creation. If I am in deep sleep, this world doesn't exist for me. But when I am awakened, when you are connected with my 18 tattvas only, this world is manifesting for me. So this is my Kurukshetra. Whatever may be the extension, I say, oh, galaxies and all these things are. But comparing to the reality, this is a speck in front of this universal reality. So in that invisible world, and what had happened in this Dharma Kshetra and my illusory world, Kurukshetra, Samaveda Yuvitsuva, my positive and or material and spiritual thoughts are getting into clash. The real messages by the cosmic rules are being executed through the heart. Definitely we will have a feeling that our heart will say, yes, Mr. So-and-so. If I ask myself, Yogi Shivan, my heart will say, this is the right thing. But immediately my brain, which is connected with all information, will say, no, that is not the right. So there is a clash. The reality of nature is manifesting or interacting through us. The dharma is being developed through the heart, and the law of individual, Kurukshetram, is coming and questioning it. Actually, this is what is happening. Always we have this battle with it. Mamaka, the feeling of I, me and mine, and the universal law. And they are getting into a clash. If we meditate on this sloka, immediately we will come to know a cosmic reality which is incomprehensible and a universal reality which is within the limit of my mind. Always there is a clash. But how I can come out of that? There Krishna stands up and says that, come on, there are 18 yogas. One by one, Arjuna is asking. Then Krishna is giving it the answer. If we grasp the first sloka, then we will feel that an invisible master's hand is slowly taking us to the right direction. So all slokas in Bhagavad Gita has deeper meanings. So with a meditative mind, we have to analyze it or adopt it.
Great, Guruji. The start of the Bhagavad Gita, right, is where the main sentiment, so important, most people dive into directly the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. And that's what we are eager, we are impatient.
Yes, yeah.
And this was great because we got a bigger picture. And one of the bigger pictures, even before we start the Bhagavad Gita, is that the seeker in us, which knows the truth, which is connected to the reality, like the Pandav, which is eager to follow the righteous path, the path of dharma, may be ostracized, may be looked down upon, may be, just how the Pandavas were kind of ostracized, right? They had to go and hide. They were not given fair rights. They were not playing the game of the sansar. And we feel, sometimes, Guruji, I even heard mothers say, oh, I have to teach my child to be, wicked or this way because they're living in the world. But the Pandavas they lived by the law of dharma, by the sense of righteousness. And while they didn't have those worldly achievements as we see them, what they did have was Krishna by their side, and peace on their faces, and
Yes.
knowing that things will be okay. Even though, of course, Arjun found himself questioning, which we all do. Even if you're on the righteous path, we'll still question. Versus the the Kauravas who had a kingdom, who had all of it, but they still had greed and they had lack of peace. So that is a bigger picture. And yet, right, then when the Bhagavad Gita starts and tells you, hey, how do you figure out this battle? It starts with that blind place that we all operate from. That blind place which is represented by Dhritarashtra, that knows nothing, that says, I know nothing. I only know the world through my senses. Even though Dhritarashtra was blind, his blindness represented the lack of spiritual awareness. And all he had was everything in the world. And it said, now I have everything in the world, but I still don't have spiritual awareness. I still don't have my third eye. And in this state of mind, there is this battle between what I know through my senses and want to acquire, and this deep spiritual righteousness which I know exists, right? Which we all know that exists, which Dhritarashtra knew existed. And then he said, okay, I am willing now, finally, to open this third eye and understand this kind of constant battle between righteousness and the law of the cosmic law of the universe, and the worldly and the ways of the world. So this battle between the ways of the world and the laws of the cosmic laws of nature, which are always at battle. And how are you able to, right? Like now, at some part in the Gita, Krishna shows Arjun the reality momentarily. And we'll get into that. But how, when we know the reality and from a place of spiritual awakening, we can still exist in the world, but then our action is different. Until then, we are stuck between this battle, between Dharma Kshetra and Kurukshetra.
Yes.
Places which reside within our own hearts, within our own selves, that we need to sort out.
Yes, this is the key. So nobody can be away from this fight. Even Krishna also involved himself into the war. But as a charioteer, he was also present there. So long as we have the body, we have to be in this battlefield. So our life is a battlefield. Here, how you can understand the insignificance of the battle. There, technically set one area. When Arjuna was asking these questions, like we are highly intellectual. So Arjuna was also very intellectual. And he couldn't understand exactly what the message given to him by Krishna, because it is incomprehensible. The Dharma Kshetra means the invisible real world or invisible reality cannot be grasped, conceived in our limited consciousness.
Experienced, yeah.
So, since we have that limitation, it's like a blind child who is asking about the beauty of the rainbow. How we can explain to that child about the rainbow? We may keep telling that, but still the child will keep asking questions. The Arjuna is like that. There, technically, Master was saying, either you should be initiated by an experienced person. That is what is the Vishwarupa Darshan. Like Swami Vivekananda was very intellectual. So he was, kept on asking questions to Paramahamsa. So after listening many questions, many days, what happened? One day, in between a talk, he touched Paramahamsa, touched Vivekananda. Then Vivekananda, he wrote in his autobiography, that he felt some kind of electric current, and he lost all his senses, and he was so scared. His eyes were having, pouring tears, body ache of, high temperature, and it was a horrible feeling. But After that, he felt what is Kundalini awakening. That time, actually, because of the contact with an experienced person, this guy's third eye forcefully opened. That is why he couldn't bear that load. This is what is exactly narrated in Vishwarupa Darshan. So either you should have a direct contact with an experienced guru or experienced master whom we call guru. Or a sloka says, Sarva Dwarani Samyamya Mano Hridi Niruddhya Murdhanyadaya Atmana Pranamastido Yoga Dharanam. See, there are 18 chapters. All chapters are yoga. Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Then Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yogam, Bhakti Yogam. Then many yogas are like that. 18 yogas has 18 chapters. But few places only it is clearly stated what really yoga is. This is one among the best. We have 9 holes in our body, Navadwaras, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth, 1 genital, 1 anus. Total 9 holes. So Sarva Dwarani Samyam. So 9 holes has to be controlled through pranayama. Mano Hridi Niruddhi. Bring your mind back to heart. Never it is said focus on center of eyebrows. A very practical and technical scientific lesson. Many people are meditating on center of eyebrows without getting proper guidance. If we try to focus our mind in the center of eyebrows, Bromatya, beyond certain limit, when the energy focused over there, it will lead to serious damages because brain is so sensitive.
So delicate.
It cannot bear the load beyond certain limit. When mind is focused, we cannot imagine the load because mind is universally expanded. When we try to bring it back to one point, the heat, generate over there, we cannot imagine. And the load and the heat and the stress can be handled by only heart. That is why Mano Hridi. Hridi means Hridaya, heart. We have to bring it into Hiranyagarbha. Then what should be kept in the center of eyebrows? Murdhanyadaya Mana. Then Atma Bodha, our prana, has to be raised to center of eyebrows. So technical. Mind should be in Hiranyagarbha. Prana should be managed through pranayama in the center of eyebrows. There, like as Krishna is controlling the chariot, the whole body and bodily and mental functions will be under your control. That is what is called pranamastido. Keep the prana in that state, yoga dharanam, that is yoga. See how sensitive and how serious it is. But if we want to learn and experience Gita, we should go in these kind of depths. Then only it will be beneficial. Otherwise, I have seen like many people who are reading and chanting and meditating on Gita. But when we see their life, when we watch it closely, sometimes we will come to know that what kind of wisdom they have achieved through this book. Because it will remain as only a reading or a contemplation. That's all. We should read, contemplate, and go beyond it, and that message should be an experience for us. It's like a meditation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Guys, so this was, how do you go about it? Everything becomes an intellectual discussion and only stays an intellectual discussion. So the last 5 episodes we had was kind of an intellectual discussion, and it brings us in awe, Guruji. We're like, wow, right? Because we see all the meanings behind the stories. And Arjun, who even acted out of righteousness, right, still came to this point. Arjun was a Pandav because even even through the intellectual decisions, even if you act out of righteousness, what will happen is, somebody says, oh, she does not have access to the Krishna consciousness when she has to make decisions. Arjun, because of the righteous act, he had access to Krishna consciousness. If he had not conducted dharma, he had not worked with dharma, that access would have not been there. The reason why he had access to Krishna and Kauravas didn't have the same kind of access to Krishna was because they were on the right path. But even on being on that righteous path, when you come to this point, and the entire Bhagavad Gita is not an intellectual discussion per se, it is a definitive path on how can you experience the reality. Everything else makes you feel good, feels good in the moment, gives you somewhat of a roadmap, but does not really allow us to explore the depths of our potential that exists when we don't work through our senses. And we've had lots of talks in this, but we're going to continue to have talks in the subsequent seasons where we're going to take a whole season about the yogas and how the whole journey is about temporarily shutting off your senses and anywhere that prana can come in through eyes, nose, mouth, external air can come into, shutting it down so you can experience the reality within. And that's what the path, that's where Bhagavad Gita leads you to, not just an intellectual discussion. The Mahabharata can be made into a discussion and contemplation and roadmap and guide and all of that. But the actual sara, the importance of Bhagavad Gita is it teaches you to experience this universal truth. Right, Guruji?
Yes, but actually, we will experience our truth. The way, if we meditate in such a way that the master had already explained, then what will happen? From my experience, I can say, we will become the whole characters. I can see. See, it is clearly said, Sakshi Rupena Darshanam.
Yeah.
I can separate my consciousness from my existence and watch my life. That is Sanjay.
Yes.
Sanjay means the guy who is seeing Sat. Sat means the reality.
Yeah. You become your own life.
Yes, that is what Sakshi means, witness. You will witness your life.
Yes. Yes.
There sometimes I feel that, oh, I am the Dhritarashtra. When I go through some decisions or my desires like Dhritarashtra, I will tell that no, this is enough. If I continue like this Dhritarashtra, my end will be like Dhritarashtra. Sometime Duryodhana will come up in my mind. I become Duryodhana. Sometime I will become Dushasana.
Absolutely.
Sometime I become Karna. So all these characters are our thoughts.
Absolutely.
Here we can observe Sakshi Rupana, like we can witness all the Mahabharata within us.
Absolutely.
Then there we can decide which character should be maintained. That is our character.
Absolutely. Who's in the driver's seat most of the time?
Yes. So we will keep changing. Actually, all these countless characters are there.
Yes.
Same way we have countless thoughts.
Absolutely.
In these countless characters, some are important, some are very important, some are significant, some are insignificant, like our thoughts.
Absolutely.
We have many thoughts we can categorize in different stages. So here again, who am I? That is what we should find. Well, when we take that I as a witness, the whole Mahabharata will be happening within our consciousness. There, carefully, we can guide our consciousness to the destination of our life. Like the Arjuna's chariot is clearly taken to the real targets. If it is consciously guided, we will achieve the target. If it is compulsively moved on, then we will have that slavery life of a slave.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it will be a life of a winner.
So true.
So this is what we should understand or take the essence as the essence of Mahabharata. It is our life. All characters are our thoughts.
Great, Guruji. This was a great session and a great way to summarize how we are, how should we look at our life and how, while we have a guidance, to always know that all of these characters will keep coming up for us. Duryodhan will come up, Rash, Bhishma, Eklavya. And at that point, when we have the ability to just sit back and start witnessing who's coming, and we can just allow for that to come and pass and
Yes.
continue to act in that righteous manner, then we have this great access to the Krishna consciousness. So it's the curiosity that we bring to ourselves and continue to act in the righteous manner. So Guruji, would it be useful for us to have one more session and discuss the dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna next time?
If you have specific questions, we can have.
Okay.
Otherwise, the details, if you want to go through certain slokas, we can discuss about that. Here, what we should understand is, like, Arjuna is the only person among these countless characters who was capable or destined to listen Gita, Bhagavad Gita. So, among this, our countless, thoughts or characters, if we appreciate or enhance the Arjuna thought, Arjuna quality, what is the speciality of Arjuna? One-pointedness. He is focused. If you can learn, practice this focusing the mind, you can hear a Gita from within, because Arjuna quality will be delivered Gita. So from where you can listen the real Gita? From within. The external Gita is only a guide, towards the self. Then you transform yourself into Arjuna, or among these countless thoughts, you appreciate Arjuna character. Then definitely in the middle of our life, battlefield, you can hear a cosmic sound as Bhagavad Gita. From where it will come? It will be revealed from within. So when you hear the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, it is assured that you will hit the target. What is the target? Final emancipation.
Wonderful.
So, yes.
Wonderful, Guruji. Next time we'll do Q&A session. Everybody who's listening, I would encourage you to go to all the 5 sessions we've done so far, get a full understanding, and we come back with the Q&A, Guruji. We'll come back. I think Guruji has answered all the key questions about the practical aspects of yoga. We will go into them in the next few seasons. We will cover everything. But for now, Guruji, next time we'll take the Q&A session. And thank you so much for the way you deliver things, Guruji. Pranam.
Pranam.